Chosen one, stop scrolling. Heaven has interrupted your timeline for a reason. This moment is not a coincidence. The noise around you pauses because God is about to speak directly to your spirit. The fear that's been gripping your heart, the worry that has kept you awake at night, it is not meant to stay. Heaven is stepping into your storm, and you are being reminded that you were never created to live in anxiety. You were created to carry divine peace. You have spent too many nights trying to calculate outcomes that were never yours to control. You have tried to fix, to understand, to make sense of things that only God could arrange. You replay conversations in your mind, worrying about what could have been done differently. But child of God, He was in control the entire time. Every unanswered question, every delay, every detour, it was divine direction in disguise. Listen closely. Worry is a signal that you've been trying to take back what God already promised to handle. Heaven doesn't panic. The angels do not rush. The throne of God is not moved by your storm. The same voice that calmed the sea still whispers peace into your spirit right now. You have cried, Lord, when will it end? And He answers, when you let me carry what was never yours to carry. You are not forgotten. You are not behind. You are not too late. God has been setting things in order even while you were doubting. The enemy has been whispering fear because he knows what happens when you remember who you are. You are not random. You are marked. You are chosen. Every battle you have faced was proof of the calling over your life. Every season of silence was heaven building the endurance of a warrior. Beloved, heaven is not asking you to understand everything, only to trust. Faith begins where understanding ends. Trust is the doorway to peace. The Spirit of God says, let go of what you cannot fix, and watch me perfect what concerns you. There are things happening behind the scenes right now that you can't yet see. While you are crying, angels are moving. While you are waiting, heaven is working. Your worry cannot change the outcome, but your worship can. Stop fighting for control. You are standing on holy ground. The same God who parted the sea for Moses, who shut the mouths of lions for Daniel, and who turned the cross into resurrection, will not fail you now. You have been through too much for it to end in defeat. The story is not over. God is not done. You are not finished. We are reminded through the writings of David in the Psalms. Chapter 46, verse 10. Be still, and know that I am God. Those are not just poetic words, they are a command. Stillness is not passivity, it is warfare in the spirit. When you stop worrying, you make space for heaven to move. When you quiet your mind, God begins to speak clearly again. Peace is not the absence of storms. Peace is the presence of trust. Do you realize how much power is released when you choose calm over panic? Worry drains, but worship restores. Anxiety blinds, but gratitude opens your eyes. Even now, as you listen, your heart is being recentered. You can almost feel the tension leaving your chest. That's not imagination, that's divine exchange. Heaven is trading your worry for strength. You've been waiting for the right time to rest. That time is now. Not when things are perfect. Not when people change. Not when money comes. Now. Because peace is not found in changed circumstances, it's found in surrendered hearts. The moment you let go, the burden lifts. Heaven moves the instant your heart releases control. God is saying, I've got this. Trust me. You are not walking into chaos. You are walking into alignment. The shaking around you is not punishment, it is preparation. Worry has no place where faith stands tall. The more you fear, the further you drift. The more you trust, the faster the breakthrough comes. Heaven does not move by fear, it responds to faith. So take a breath. The same God who painted the stars and holds the galaxies in order is holding your life with care. Nothing is out of his reach. Nothing surprises him. Every delay is calculated. Every heartbreak is permitted for transformation. You are being positioned, not punished. God's plan for you is not falling apart, it is falling into place. Now lift your head. Your story is sacred. Heaven is writing your next chapter with grace and glory. You are not meant to live in fear, you are meant to walk in faith. This moment is a divine interruption because your season of worry ends here. If this message resonates with your spirit, then like this video, share it with another soul who needs to hear it, and subscribe to stay connected to this flow of heavenly revelation. Comment below the number 777 as your act of faith, your prophetic declaration that you choose peace over panic, trust over fear, and divine alignment over anxiety. Chosen one. Listen, there has never been a moment when heaven mistook your identity. You were never ordinary. The world tried to convince you that being different was a flaw, that standing out meant something was wrong with you. But the truth is, your distinction is divine. Every wound, every misunderstanding, every rejection, it was all heaven's confirmation that you were set apart from the beginning. You have walked through rooms that could not contain your light. You have tried to fit into circles that never matched your frequency. You have wondered, why can't I just be like everyone else? But beloved, that question is proof of your calling. The unease you feel when trying to blend in is heaven's way of pulling you back into purpose. You are not designed to disappear. You are designed to disrupt darkness. There is a mark upon your spirit that hell can recognize. That's why you've been attacked since birth. The enemy saw the blueprint of your destiny long before you understood it yourself. Every hardship you faced was not random, it was targeted resistance meant to break what was being built within you. But what the enemy underestimated was your resilience. You kept getting up. You kept believing even when your heart was breaking. You prayed even when your voice trembled. That persistence was heaven's evidence that you carry something unstoppable. You have mistaken training for punishment. The pain that shaped you was not a curse, it was a classroom. Every betrayal sharpened your discernment. Every loss deepened your compassion. Every moment of isolation made you learn to hear God's whisper more clearly. You are not broken, you are being refined. Gold is not soft when it is discovered, it is melted, purified, and forged in fire. That is what God has been doing inside you. Heaven has been working in silence, molding your heart to carry what's next. You have outgrown certain patterns, certain people, and certain fears because your assignment requires more room. It may feel like loneliness, but it's actually preparation. You cannot take everyone into your promised land. You cannot carry yesterday's identity into tomorrow's anointing. To be chosen means to be separated. And separation always feels painful before it feels purposeful. The Spirit spoke through the prophet Jeremiah, chapter 1, verse 5. Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you before you were born. I set you apart. These words are not ancient history. They are your story. You were known before you were seen. You were appointed before you applied. You were chosen before you even breathed. Heaven had already stamped your existence with meaning before the world ever questioned your worth. You are walking evidence of divine strategy. God's hand has been guiding even the smallest turns of your life. The moments that made no sense then are becoming the foundation for your next assignment. What you thought disqualified you actually prepared you. What you thought was a dead end became a door disguised in delay. Nothing about your story is wasted. Every scar now carries glory. Remember, chosen one, when God marks you. Man cannot unmark you. People may overlook you, but heaven never does. Even in your seasons of invisibility, God was amplifying your spirit. He hid you, not to punish you, but to protect you. Sometimes God hides his most powerful weapons until the perfect time. You were never behind schedule. You were being sharpened in secret. Your calling carries weight. And that's why your process has been heavy. Diamonds are not made in comfort. They are made in pressure. Oil is not released until the olive is crushed. You cannot carry glory without first enduring breaking. But what emerges after breaking is something unshakable. You are learning to stand, not on applause, but on conviction. You are learning that divine purpose is not about being seen, it's about being sent. Every battle you have survived has expanded your capacity to lead others through their own storms. You are not just surviving, you are transforming. The same fire that tried to destroy you will become the flame that lights your path forward. The loneliness you once cursed will become the sanctuary where God speaks to you clearly. You are heaven's messenger in human form. Every word you speak carries weight because it's forged in authenticity. Every time you rise again, you remind the world that God still writes redemption stories. You are not ordinary, and you never will be. You were chosen to shift atmospheres, to carry peace into chaos, to declare light where others only see night. So, walk in that truth. Own the divine difference. Stop apologizing for being too passionate, too sensitive, too intense. Those qualities are not flaws, they are fingerprints of your divine design. Heaven didn't make you to blend in, heaven made you to stand out. Let the world wonder why your peace remains in storms. Let them question how you still glow after fire. Then let your life answer, because you were chosen before time began. Chosen one. There is a sacred weight on your shoulders. And it is not a curse, it is a calling. You have been wondering why life has felt heavier for you than for others. Why your battles seem deeper. Why your tears come easier. It is because heaven has trusted you with what others could not carry. The weight you feel is holy. It is evidence that you have been entrusted with divine responsibility. There are assignments only you can fulfill, people only you can reach, and atmospheres only you can shift. The pain you've endured was never meant to break you, it was meant to birth something powerful through you. You were not just surviving situations, you were being stretched into spiritual maturity. Every moment you whispered, "God, I can't take it anymore." Heaven whispered back, "You are stronger than you think." The world sees your quietness, but heaven sees your endurance. The world sees your tears, but heaven counts them as offerings. You have been sowing in pain, but you will reap in purpose. There is no suffering wasted when it belongs to a chosen one. Every heartbreak, every disappointment, every sleepless night has been sacred training ground. You were being refined in silence because your public season requires purity of heart. The apostle reminds us in his second letter to the Corinthians, chapter 4, verse 17, "For our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all." God has seen every secret moment you've wanted to give up, but didn't. He has watched you choose grace over bitterness, forgiveness over revenge, prayer over panic. Those were not small victories, they were monumental acts of obedience. They have been recorded in heaven's archives as evidence of your faith. Nothing you've endured has been wasted. God wastes nothing, especially not pain. There are crowns that only the wounded can wear because they were forged in fire. And you, beloved, are being crowned even now. You may not see it yet, but the weight that almost broke you is becoming the oil that will anoint others through your story. The very thing that made you cry will one day become the testimony that makes others believe again. You are being built into a vessel that can carry hope into broken places. Do not despise your scars. They are proof that you survived the refining. You were never meant to emerge untouched. You were meant to emerge transformed. When gold is refined, it does not lose value. It becomes purer, stronger, more radiant. That's what heaven is doing in you. The fire was not punishment, it was purification. Chosen one. The season of constant battle is shifting. You are about to step into a season where what once felt heavy will now feel holy. The burden will become blessing. The tears will become testimony. The struggle will become strength. The very areas where you felt weakest will become the places God uses most powerfully. You are not breaking, you are becoming. You must understand, heaven trains its warriors differently. God is not building comfort in you. He is building capacity. He is enlarging your spirit so you can carry more glory, more wisdom, more compassion. The more weight you bear, the greater the grace that flows through you. Do not mistake exhaustion for failure. You are being stretched for expansion right now. Heaven is rebalancing your heart. The things that once triggered fear will soon trigger faith. The wounds that once ached will soon become wells of wisdom. You will speak from scars, not from pain. People will listen, not because of your perfection, but because of your authenticity. You will be proof that the crushing was worth it, that the breaking had purpose, that the heaviness was never in vain. This is your divine refinement. This is where your faith matures and your endurance earns its crown. There is glory on the other side of this grind. You are about to understand why the path was so heavy, because the promise is so holy. Heaven's assignments are never light, but they are always right. So now, breathe. Let go of the guilt for feeling tired. Even Jesus wept. Even the strongest fall to their knees before they rise again. But hear this clearly, you are rising. Every ounce of pain is becoming purpose. Every fragment of your story is being woven into divine order. You are not the same person who walked into the fire. You are the one who walks out carrying the flame. Now, chosen one, pause for a moment and anchor this truth in your heart. Then, as an act of agreement, comment the words, "I am ready." It's not just a phrase, it's your declaration to heaven that you accept the weight of your calling without fear. When you write it, you're saying, "Lord, I understand now. The burden was holy all along. I am ready to carry it with grace." Chosen one, do you realize how much of your peace has been stolen by thoughts that were never your own, the whispers that keep you awake at night. The constant replay of worst-case scenarios, those are not your voice. Worry has been the enemy's language since the beginning of time. It is his most subtle weapon, disguised as responsibility. He cannot take your destiny, so he tries to distract your mind. And if he can make you anxious, he can make you forget who you are. You have spent too long believing that fear was wisdom and that anxiety was awareness. But what you called being cautious was sometimes just captivity. There is a difference between discernment and dread. Discernment listens for God. Dread listens for danger. Heaven is calling you to tune your ear back to truth. The Spirit of God never speaks in panic. He does not rush, and he never confuses. Every time your heart starts racing with fear, remember this confusion is never divine. The enemy whispers in uncertainty, but God speaks in clarity. That is how you know the difference. The voice that accuses, condemns, or agitates is not from above. The voice that calms, corrects, and comforts, that is the Spirit. The reason your mind feels like a battlefield is because your destiny carries too much weight for the enemy to ignore. He would not fight you if you were not dangerous to his agenda. He attacks your thoughts because he cannot touch your anointing. The Word of God declares in the first letter of Peter, chapter 5, verse 7, "Cast all your anxiety on him because he cares for you." Those words are both an instruction and an invitation. Heaven is not asking you to manage your anxiety, it's asking you to release it. Worry was never meant to be carried, it was meant to be surrendered. The longer you hold it, the heavier it grows. But the moment you let it go, peace rushes in like a flood. Think about it every time you tried to handle it on your own. Your strength ran out. But every time you said, "God, I can't do this without you," somehow the day carried you. That was not coincidence, that was care. God has been carrying what you thought you were holding alone. Every time you should have broken but didn't, it was his hand beneath you. You see, worry does not prevent problems, it multiplies them. It adds shadows to moments that haven't even happened. Fear is imagination without faith. The enemy wants to fill your imagination with failure, but God wants to fill it with promise. What you picture when you pray reveals what you believe. Are you praying as if God might fail, or as if he already finished the work? Peace is not the reward for control, it is the result of surrender. The enemy tells you that if you just try harder, you'll finally feel safe. But the truth is, safety is not in striving, it's in stillness. Heaven fights for you when you stop fighting yourself. When you let go, angels are released. When you rest, God works. The greatest spiritual warfare is often fought by choosing calm when chaos demands your attention. You are not failing because you worry. You are human, but you must not let worry define you. The difference between falling and dwelling is choice. When fear rises, remind your soul, "This is not my voice." Speak life even when your mind trembles. The power of God within you is louder than the lies around you. You've been conditioned to think that worry shows you care. But heaven measures care differently. True care is trusting the one who actually controls the outcome. Faith does not ignore danger, it acknowledges a greater defender. When your heart says, "What if heaven responds? Even then, I am with you," that is the sound of divine assurance. Chosen one, it's time to reclaim your peace. Peace is not a personality type, It's a spiritual position. You can be in a storm and still sleep like Jesus did on the boat. Because peace does not depend on calm waves, it depends on knowing who commands them. You do not need to wait for the chaos to stop before you rest. Rest now. Because heaven never loses control. The next time fear begins to rise, pause. Don't wrestle, release. Whisper, Lord, this is yours. That's all it takes. You are not weak for needing peace. You are wise for seeking it. Every warrior of God learns to rest in battle. That's what makes you undefeatable. The war may rage, but you know the outcome has already been written. You are chosen. And chosen ones cannot be controlled by fear. The enemy's whispers may surround you, but they cannot drown you. Every anxious thought that once chained your mind is breaking now. You are stepping into a freedom that cannot be explained, only experienced. So walk forward, heart steady, spirit calm, knowing this, the one who called you is still caring for you. Nothing escapes his eye. Nothing surpasses his hand. And nothing can silence his promise. You are safe in the sovereignty of God. Chosen one. Before you ever took your first breath, heaven had already drawn the map of your life. Every mountain, every valley, every delay, every door written with divine precision. You have not been wandering without direction. You've been walking through chapters already designed by the author of time. There is no coincidence in your path. What looked like detours were actually divine reroutes. You were never lost, only led by an invisible hand that has never failed. Sometimes, when you look at your life, it feels like a puzzle scattered across the floor. You see broken pieces, missing corners, parts that don't seem to fit. But from heaven's view, the picture is already complete. God sees the whole image, even when you only see fragments. He knows exactly where each piece belongs, and when the time is right, He fits them together perfectly. The process may be slow, but the plan has always been sure. The ancient words recorded in the Psalms, chapter 139, verse 16, declare, your eyes saw my unformed body. All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be. This means your story is not being written as you live it, is being revealed as you walk. You are walking through a script heaven finished long ago. Every step you take in faith activates what was waiting for you in eternity. You don't need to fear the unknown when the author himself is guiding your pen. Think of a seed buried underground. From the outside, it looks lifeless, forgotten beneath the soil. But in truth, it's hidden in sacred darkness. Where roots are forming, that's where you are. Heaven has planted you in purpose, not in punishment. The dirt covering you is not burial, it's preparation. And when the right season comes, what's been buried will break forth with beauty. You have looked at the silence and thought God was absent. But silence is where He does His deepest work. A sculptor does not chisel while the clay is wet. He waits until it's ready to hold its shape. In the same way, God has been forming you quietly, layer by layer, decision by decision. You are being shaped into a vessel that can carry what's coming. Beloved, your path is not random, it's written. You've walked through fire so that you can carry flame without being burned. You've endured storms so you can speak peace into others' chaos. You've been delayed because your foundation needed to be deeper. God never builds skyscrapers on shallow ground. Maybe right now, you're looking at your life and thinking, I don't see progress. But progress in heaven's language often looks like pruning. God cuts what no longer serves your purpose so that what's meant to grow can flourish. When branches fall away, don't mourn them, thank God for making room for fruit. You are part of a divine symphony. And though you may only hear one instrument now, the full melody is unfolding. Heaven is orchestrating connections, timing, and opportunities you can't yet see. The pauses, the rests, the waiting, those are not empty spaces. They are the rhythm of grace. Trust the tempo of heaven. And as you walk this path, remember every soul who listens, every heart that joins this journey, becomes part of the same divine story. We are threads in the same tapestry, woven by the same hand. When you share this message, you are not spreading words, you are spreading light. When you like, you affirm that heaven is still speaking. When you subscribe, you are saying, I want to stay close to what God is revealing. And for those who feel led to give, to donate, to plant a seed into this ministry, understand this: you are not paying for a message. You are participating in a mission. Every seed you sow becomes fuel for more souls to hear what heaven is saying. Imagine it like lighting a candle, not just for yourself, but for countless others walking through darkness. One act of giving, one spark of generosity, can illuminate paths for many. Your support, whether through prayer, sharing, or contribution, is more than action, it's agreement. It tells heaven, I believe in what you're doing here. Every like, every share, every subscription, every donation, it's a ripple in eternity. You become part of a chain reaction of light. So, as you listen and reflect, take a breath. Feel the certainty of this truth. Your path is not chaos, it's choreography. Heaven is composing your life like a symphony of purpose and timing. And when the final note plays, you'll look back and realize it was perfect all along. Chosen one, I know the waiting has been hard. You've prayed, fasted, believed, and still, it feels like nothing has moved. You've watched others run ahead while you remain in what feels like stillness. You've wondered if maybe you missed the sign, if maybe God forgot to call your name. But beloved, hear this truth: what feels like delay is not denial. Heaven's silence is not absence, it's strategy. You are in a sacred season called becoming. It is the hidden part of the process that nobody sees but heaven celebrates. Seeds do not grow under sunlight alone, they grow first in darkness. Roots must form before fruit can show. You've been underground, but not unnoticed. God is growing something beneath the surface that will sustain you when the harvest comes. The enemy has tried to make you think that waiting means wasting time. But in God's design, waiting is working. Heaven never wastes a pause. Every quiet moment is a lesson in disguise. You are being refined in patience so that your blessing will not destroy you when it arrives. Because sometimes, receiving too soon can break what hasn't been built strong enough to carry glory. The prophet Isaiah wrote these eternal words in chapter 40, verse 31, But those who wait for the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings like eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. This is not poetry, it is a promise. Waiting is not weakness, it is preparation for flight. When eagles molt, they retreat into high places, shedding old feathers and waiting for new strength to rise. For a time, They look broken, grounded, even defeated, but when their renewal comes, they soar higher than before. That is you. Heaven is rebuilding your wings in secret. Maybe the reason you've been hidden is because elevation requires isolation. You can't hear divine instructions with too many voices around you. God silenced certain relationships not to punish you, but to prepare you. He removed distractions so that you could finally hear Him clearly. What feels like separation is actually sanctification. He is setting you apart for something that can't be shared with everyone. You see, chosen one. Divine timing is like the ocean tide. It withdraws before it returns, not because it's leaving, but because it's gathering strength. You are in that pullback moment, where heaven seems distant but is actually building momentum. When it returns, it will sweep in everything you've been praying for all at once. The flood of fulfillment will make sense of every delay. Patience isn't passive, it's prophetic. Every day you choose to trust instead of worry. Heaven records your endurance. Every time you wait instead of rushing ahead, you're saying, God, I trust your clock more than mine. That trust becomes a fragrance that fills the throne room, a worship that moves angels into motion. When it feels like nothing is happening, remind yourself that roots are growing deeper. Trees with shallow roots fall in storms, but those who wait through the dark seasons become unshakable. What God is building in you cannot be uprooted by disappointment. You are becoming steady enough to stand when others fall. Beloved, heaven's plans require patience because glory takes time to mature. You cannot microwave miracles. Some blessings arrive like lightning, but most like sunrise, gradual. Sure, unstoppable. You may not see the shift yet, but dawn is already touching the edge of your horizon. Every second you've spent waiting has been sacred currency in heaven's economy. Your faith during delay is worth more than your praise during victory. It's easy to sing when doors open. It's holy to sing when they remain closed. You are not just waiting, you are worshipping in stillness. And heaven calls that obedience. Right now, angels are aligning pieces you don't even know exist. God is not just preparing the blessing, He's preparing you for it. Because the promise is not just about arrival, it's about endurance. You are not meant to visit the mountaintop for a moment, you are meant to dwell there. And that requires patience forged in hidden seasons. When the door finally opens, you will not just walk through, you will walk prepared. The very strength you gained in waiting will keep you steady in blessing. And when that moment comes, it will not feel rushed, it will feel right. Heaven's timing always feels like peace. So lift your eyes. Chosen one. The stillness is sacred. The waiting is holy. The pause is purposeful. You are not behind, you are aligned. Every delay is heaven whispering, trust me. It's not time yet, but soon, very soon, the words will shift now. Step forward. If this truth stirs something deep within your spirit, then, as a prophetic act of faith, comment the number 444 below. That number represents divine alignment, the assurance that heaven's timing and your path are merging perfectly. When you type it, you're not just writing digits, you're declaring, I trust the process. I believe the plan. I will wait with faith, not fear. Chosen one. Heaven has seen every tear. You've cried those moments when words failed, and all you could do was whisper, God, please help me. Not one of those tears fell unnoticed. Each one carried weight in eternity. The world sees tears as weakness, but heaven records them as worship. They are liquid prayers, speaking what your lips could not form. You may not realize it, but your tears have been sowing something divine. When you wept over loss, heaven planted comfort. When you cried in confusion, heaven planted clarity. When you mourned what seemed destroyed, heaven was already preparing resurrection. Every tear has a twin in heaven's treasury. None evaporate unseen. They become droplets of mercy that will rain back upon your life in due season. The psalmist wrote of this mystery in the Holy Scriptures, in the book of Psalms, chapter 56, verse 8. You keep track of all my sorrows. You have collected all my tears in your bottle. You have recorded each one in your book. These words are not mere poetry, they are testimony. They mean that heaven archives your pain with precision. You are not a forgotten prayer. You are a remembered soul. God has been keeping a record, not to remind you of grief, but to repay you in grace. You've thought at times, my prayers are hitting the ceiling, but what you don't see is that every sigh, every whispered plea, has been building a cloud of blessing. When the time comes, that cloud will break, and what you once released in sorrow will return as showers of favor. The drought will end. The land of your heart will bloom again. There were nights when you felt unseen, surrounded by silence, asking, does God even care? Yet, while you cried, angels stood guard. They didn't stop your tears, because your tears were the signal that you were still believing. Only hearts that still trust can cry in the dark. Those who have given up stop weeping. But you, beloved, wept and still hoped. That is what moved heaven to action. Sometimes the strongest prayer is not a shout, it's a sob. It's the moment you run out of eloquence and simply surrender. God doesn't need perfect words, He needs honest hearts. He can translate tears better than tongues. When you cry before Him, you're not breaking down, you're being rebuilt. Tears cleanse the soul like rain cleanses the earth. They prepare the soil for new life. You've walked through seasons where pain seemed endless, where every answer felt delayed. But you must understand, God allows tears not to drown you, but to deepen you. Every drop shapes empathy within you, so you can comfort others with the comfort you have received. You are being fashioned into a vessel of compassion, someone who carries healing, because you know what brokenness feels like. There's something sacred about a weeping heart. It's a heart that refuses to harden, a spirit still tender enough to feel heaven's pull. Don't despise your sensitivity. The world may mock tears, but heaven honors them. A tearful heart is a heart still alive to God's whisper. Every tear is evidence that you still care, still believe, still love. Chosen one. One day, you will look back on this chapter and understand. You will see that the nights of weeping were watering the mornings of joy. You will realize that nothing was wasted, not even the pain. Every ache had a purpose. Every tear built strength invisible to the eye. You will say, now, I see why it had to happen this way. For now, let peace enter where the ache once lived. Let gratitude replace the sorrow. Your tears have done their holy work. You no longer cry from fear, you cry from release. Heaven is turning your mourning into melody. There is music forming in your spirit, the kind that only those who have walked through fire can sing. And when you meet others who are crying the same way you once did, you will not pass them by. You will recognize the language of their pain, and your compassion will become a bridge. You'll place your hand on their shoulder and say, I know, I've been there, but you will rise. Because you will. You always do. Remember this truth: God never forgets tears. He transforms them. The same hands that counted each drop are now preparing to lift you higher than you thought possible. The same eyes that watched you break will now watch you bloom. Heaven keeps record not of your failures, but of your faithfulness. So rest tonight. Chosen one, let the memory of those tears remind you that you were never alone, not for a single heartbeat. Heaven has always been nearer than your pain, closer than your breath. And now, as dawn begins to touch the horizon of your life, you'll see your tears were never the end. They were the beginning of glory. Chosen one, peace is not the absence of struggle, it is the power to remain still in the middle of it. You have faced storms that should have shattered your mind, but you are still standing. That alone is evidence of grace. The world believes peace is found in control. If they can plan everything, they will finally rest. But heaven teaches a higher truth. Real peace is found in surrender. It is when you release your grip that God takes hold completely. You have tried to reason your way to calmness, but peace cannot be reasoned, it must be received. It flows from the Spirit, not from circumstance. The moment you stop wrestling for answers, the river begins to move again. The Spirit's peace does not negotiate with fear, it silences it. Peace is not a gentle feeling, it is a weapon forged in trust. Every time you choose peace over panic, you are waging spiritual war and winning silently. The Apostle wrote in his letter to the Philippians, chapter 4, verse 7, "And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus." This is not just comfort, it is command. Peace is not passive protection, it is active defense. It stands as a sentinel around your thoughts, pushing back the voices that try to invade. When the world sees calmness, heaven sees armor. Peace is heaven's shield against the chaos of this realm. You have misunderstood peace as weakness because it looks quiet. But peace is not fragile, it is fierce. Only those anchored in faith can walk calmly through fire. Jesus slept in a storm not because he ignored danger, but because he trusted dominion. That same authority lives within you. The storm may still roar, but it cannot override the word inside your spirit. There are times when you have prayed for God to remove the storm, but instead he strengthened your sails. That's peace. It's when God does not change what's outside you, because he is changing what's inside you. It is learning to stand unshaken while the wind howls. That is what terrifies the enemy. He cannot control someone who refuses to panic. When you choose peace, you are declaring war against fear. You are saying, I will not bow to confusion. I will not serve anxiety. And heaven responds to that declaration. Peace begins to flow through your bloodstream like holy fire, pushing out despair, renewing your mind. You begin to see the world differently, not through survival, but through sovereignty. You must understand, this peace is a spiritual inheritance. It was purchased with blood on the cross. Jesus did not promise a life without trouble. He promised his presence within it. The gift was not a calm sea, it was an unshakable heart. You carry that promise within you. You are the stillness in the storm, the calm in the chaos, the quiet voice that says, God is still in control. When peace enters, perspective shifts. Suddenly, you no longer chase what was never meant to stay. You stop forcing doors open and start trusting the ones that close. You begin to see rejection as redirection. Peace gives you vision, not just rest. It opens your eyes to see beyond the temporary, to recognize that every delay, every disappointment, is part of divine rearrangement. Chosen one, peace is the melody that plays beneath the noise. It's the sound your soul makes when it remembers heaven's rhythm. When you live in peace, you are untouchable, not because life is easy, but because you've anchored yourself in eternity. The storms outside cannot reach the sanctuary within. Think of your heart as a temple. Every worry you entertain is a thief trying to enter. Peace stands at the door, saying, "You cannot come in here." It guards your temple so that worship remains pure. That's why the enemy attacks your peace first, because once he steals it, he can access your mind. But you have authority to close the gate. Guard it like treasure. Protect it like oxygen. You are learning now that peace is not something you wait for, it's something you walk in. It is a decision repeated daily, moment by moment, breath by breath. You do not find peace by escaping life. You find it by facing life with divine awareness. You no longer say, "I'll be at peace when this ends." You say, "I'm at peace because God is here, even in this." And the moment that realization sinks in, fear loses its hold. You begin to breathe slower, think clearer, feel lighter. That is the Spirit reminding you you are never alone in the fire. Heaven has been with you all along, not outside the storm, but inside it. Let your soul rest now. Let your mind unclench. Peace is not coming, it is already here. It stands beside you like a faithful friend, waiting for your acknowledgement. Breathe it in. Let it wash through you. The world may still tremble, but you are anchored. You are surrounded by a presence that cannot be shaken. This is what victory feels like, not loud, not showy, but still, steady, and eternal. Chosen one, the battle has been fierce, but you have never fought it alone. Though the nights were long and your strength felt small, you were never abandoned on that battlefield. The unseen realm has always been active around you, even when you felt surrounded by darkness. Heaven was surrounding your darkness. You have never taken a single step. Unguarded angels have been walking beside you, assigned to your name since the beginning. You are not unprotected. You are accompanied by the armies of heaven. There are moments when you sense peace without reason, safety without explanation, or courage that seems to rise out of nowhere. That is not coincidence, that is covering. You are under divine escort. God's messengers have been stationed around you like living walls of light. The psalmist revealed this mystery long ago in the Holy Scriptures, in the book of Psalms, chapter 91, verse 11. He will command his angels concerning you, to guard you in all your ways. Those are not symbolic words, they are literal truth. God has commissioned protection for you. Your name is written on heavenly orders. Where you walk, heaven walks. What tries to strike you must pass through divine defense first. That is why you have survived what should have destroyed you. You were not just lucky, you were shielded. There were accidents that should have taken your life, words that should have broken your mind, betrayals that should have hardened your heart, but somehow grace kept intercepting the blow. You didn't just make it through, you were carried through. Even when your faith wavered, their wings held steady. That's the quiet miracle of angels. They do not announce their presence, they simply obey. Sometimes they come as people, a stranger's kindness, a friend's sudden call, a door that opened right when you had no more strength. Sometimes they come as unseen peace, a whisper that says, "You will be okay." However they appear, their purpose is the same, to remind you that heaven is closer than the fear in front of you. Chosen one. The enemy wants you to believe you are isolated, forgotten, fighting on your own. But isolation is the oldest lie in spiritual warfare. You are not alone in this fight. You are surrounded. If you could see what heaven sees, you would never fear again. The valley may be real, but so is the army of light encamped around you. The reason the battle feels intense is because of what you carry. The enemy never wastes ammunition on empty vessels. He attacks those filled with purpose, those whose voices carry power. But every arrow aimed at you has been intercepted by grace. What was meant to pierce has only polished. Every weapon formed against you has failed because heaven's shield stands between you and harm. There are times when you have prayed for help and felt nothing shift. But that silence did not mean neglect. It meant reinforcement. Heaven does not always announce its movements. Often, by the time you feel peace, the war has already been won. The blood of Christ sealed victory long before the battle began. Angels simply enforce what the cross already declared. You've been walking through shadows, yet none of them consumed you. You've faced threats, yet here you are, breathing, believing, becoming. That is proof. You are divinely protected, divinely preserved. Even in moments when you strayed off course, the hand of mercy redirected you. When you wandered too far, grace came running. Think of your life as a lamp in a dark world. The light within you draws both attention and attack. But God has surrounded that lamp with glass, transparent yet unbreakable. The flame may flicker, but it cannot be extinguished. That glass is His covering. That flame is His purpose. You burn because heaven breathes through you. You do not need to understand every battle to trust the outcome. Just because you don't see angels doesn't mean they're not near. Wind is invisible, yet it moves oceans. In the same way, the unseen realm is moving on your behalf right now. Where fear tries to whisper, "You're alone," faith must answer, "I am covered." Chosen one. Peace settles upon those who recognize the presence of protection. You are not at war with the unknown. You are walking with the undefeated. The same God who commands the wind commands your destiny. His word is the fortress that no darkness can penetrate. So now, breathe deeply. The war is not yours, it belongs to the Lord. Your job is not to fight harder, but to trust deeper. Angels are already moving where you cannot. Heaven is already speaking where you are silent. You are surrounded by divine order, not chaos. Every step you take is within a circle of light drawn by God Himself. If this truth resonates in your spirit, type "I am covered" below, not as a ritual, but as a reminder. When you write it, you are declaring agreement with heaven that you believe in unseen protection, that you trust the one who commands legions of angels for your sake. Let those 3 words echo in your heart. Today I am covered, because you are. and you always will be. Chosen one. Obedience is not about blind submission, it is about sacred alignment. When you obey, you are not losing freedom, you are finding divine rhythm. Every time you say yes to God's direction, you position yourself beneath an open heaven. Obedience is the key that turns the invisible locks of destiny. When you move at heaven's command, doors that have been sealed for generations begin to swing open. You may not always understand the instruction, but obedience doesn't need full explanation, it needs faith. Noah didn't understand rain before he built the ark. Abraham didn't understand distance before he began his journey. Mary didn't understand divine conception before she said, "Be it unto me." Yet their obedience shaped eternity. Yours will too. The prophet Isaiah recorded a divine truth in chapter 1, verse 19. "If you are willing and obedient, you shall eat the good of the land." This is more than promise, it's principle. Heaven honors obedience with abundance. When your will bows to God's timing, you stop chasing what was never yours and begin receiving what has always been waiting. Obedience transforms striving into flow, confusion into clarity, and delay into divine acceleration. There have been moments when God asked you to let go of something dear, an opportunity, a relationship, a plan you held close. It hurt, didn't it? It felt unfair, even cruel. But what you didn't see then was how that surrender protected you. Some blessings come disguised as losses, and some delays arrive to deliver you from disaster. Obedience does not always make sense at first, but later it becomes the only thing that makes sense at all. Think of a river. It does not fight its path, it flows where gravity leads. That's obedience in motion. The river never worries if it's moving too slow or too fast. It trusts the pull of the source. You are that river. Beloved, the pull you feel toward change, toward trust, toward purpose, that is gravity from heaven. The more you resist, the more exhausted you become. But when you surrender, you glide. You stop splashing in frustration and start flowing in faith. Some of you have been standing at a threshold, sensing the Spirit nudging you forward. You've said, "I'm waiting on God," but heaven gently replies, "I'm waiting on you." The next miracle is often one act of obedience away, not because God is testing you, but because He's preparing you. The door won't open until your heart is ready to walk through it without turning back. When you obey, you participate in creation itself. God speaks through your steps. Every act of faith releases ripples in eternity. Sometimes, obedience looks like small, quiet choices, praying instead of complaining, forgiving instead of resenting, resting instead of worrying. But those simple acts build unseen bridges toward promise. Obedience is not bondage, it's partnership. You are co-laboring with the Creator, moving in rhythm with divine intention. Heaven doesn't need your perfection, it desires your participation. When your yes aligns with His will, miracles move from possibility to reality. Chosen one. Every message like this is a spark meant to light your path. And just as obedience opens your personal doors, collective obedience opens global ones. When you share these words, you are not spreading content, you are scattering seeds. Each like becomes an echo of agreement. Each share becomes a hand extended to another weary soul. Each subscription is a promise to stay connected to the flow of truth. And to those who feel moved to give, To donate, hear this with gentleness and clarity. Giving is not transaction, it is transformation. When you sow into a message that carries heaven's weight, you are building bridges for others to cross into hope. Think of it like planting olive trees. You may not eat all their fruit, but generations will rest in their shade. Your gift becomes an oil that keeps the flame burning for someone still walking in darkness. You are part of something larger than yourself, a movement of chosen ones awakening across the earth. Every act of support, whether through prayer, sharing, or generosity, becomes part of heaven's symphony. You are helping amplify the sound of redemption, the call of peace, the message of purpose. When you choose to engage, to give, to stand in agreement, you are doing what obedient hearts have always done, building altars in the digital wilderness, places where lost hearts can hear, "You are loved. You are not forgotten." So, as you finish this message, let it stir something inside you. Let obedience no longer sound like burden, but like breath. Let giving no longer feel like loss, but like partnership. Let your yes echo in the chambers of heaven. You are walking a path paved by your willingness. Every time you obey, the ground beneath you solidifies. You don't have to see the whole map, you just have to take the next step. And when you do, heaven takes a step toward you. Chosen one. There are moments in your story that once felt like the end, moments that brought you to your knees. When everything you depended on seemed to crumble in your hands. You thought the storm came to destroy you, but heaven knew it came to reveal you. Every collapse was construction in disguise. Every loss was a hidden exchange, your comfort for your calling. The storm was never your punishment, it was your setup. When the winds rose and the waves crashed, you cried, "God, where are you?" But he was in the storm, shaping you. Storms don't come to define your weakness, they come to refine your strength. You were being stripped of false stability so that you could stand on truth alone. You thought you lost everything, yet somehow you still had breath. And that breath was proof that purpose survived. The ancient story of Joseph whispers to you through time. Betrayed by brothers, sold into slavery, forgotten in a prison cell, it seemed his life was unraveling. But each heartbreak was a breadcrumb leading him to destiny. And when he finally stood before those who once betrayed him, he spoke words that echo through eternity. What you meant for evil, God intended for good. Genesis chapter 50, verse 20. Those words are not history, they are prophecy over your life. The things that were meant to break you are becoming the very tools heaven will use to bless you. Every betrayal has pushed you toward the throne, not away from it. You would never have learned dependence if people hadn't disappointed you. You would never have found strength if your support had not vanished. You would never have found God as your anchor if life had not placed you in deep waters. Do you see it now? The storm didn't take you off course, it corrected your direction. The wind that felt destructive was actually divine transportation. It carried you from comfort to calling. You have been praying for promotion. But promotion rarely comes wrapped in peace. It often arrives wearing the disguise of pain. Heaven's curriculum teaches through chaos, not convenience. You learn to pray differently when you lost what you thought you couldn't live without. You learn to discern differently when betrayal revealed hidden motives. You learn to stand differently when support systems fell apart. That's what storms do. They teach you that stability is not a place, but a person. When everything else shakes, God remains. Chosen one. You are stronger now, not because the storm was easy, but because you refused to surrender to it. You have scars. Yes, but those scars shine. They are proof that grace didn't fail. Every time the enemy said, "This is where it ends," heaven whispered, "This is where it begins." You thought you were losing control, but God was taking control. You are standing in a moment that once terrified you. Remember when you thought you wouldn't survive that heartbreak, that loss, that betrayal, yet here you are still breathing, still believing. The storm didn't stop you, it shaped you. You are not who you were before the wind came. You are deeper now, wiser now, quieter but stronger. The storm changed the landscape of your soul, but it also cleared the path for new growth. Trees stand taller after storms because their roots dig deeper for survival. That's you. Every storm forced your roots to reach into deeper trust. And now, no matter how the wind blows, you remain anchored. Don't resent the storm. Beloved, thank it. Thank it for teaching you what peace truly means. Thank it for proving that God's presence is not dependent on calm weather. Thank it for carrying away what you didn't have the courage to release. You lost some things. Yes, but what you gained in return cannot be measured. Resilience, discernment, authority. And know this, the very place where the storm hit hardest will become the place where glory shines brightest. The battlefield where you bled will become the altar where you bless others. The pain that silenced you will become the testimony that frees others to speak. You are heaven's example of restoration, living proof that nothing is wasted in God's hands. So, the next time thunder rolls across your life, don't panic. Remember the pattern. God moves in the storm. He speaks through wind, not just whispers. When everything shakes, it's because something greater is being set in motion. You are not being destroyed, you are being developed. Rest your heart. Chosen one, the rain that once blurred your vision has washed the dust from your eyes. You can see clearly now. The storm didn't end your story, it revealed its next chapter. And in that chapter, you will find beauty where ashes once lay. You will stand where you once fell. You will bless where you once bled. Because the storm was never your end. It was your beginning. Chosen one. There is a moment in every divine story when what once felt senseless begins to make sense. You've been carrying questions that no human could answer. Why did this happen? Why me? Why now? And heaven has watched you wrestle with tears in your eyes, wondering if any of it would ever be worth it. But hear this clearly, you are standing on the edge of revelation. You are about to see why it had to happen the way it did. You see, God doesn't waste pain. He repurposes it. Every heartbreak, every closed door, every disappointment has been a divine appointment in disguise. The things you thought were taking you backward were actually setting you up for acceleration. Heaven has been positioning you, not punishing you. Every no you've received was protection from something smaller than your purpose. The ancient letter to the Romans speaks of this sacred mystery. Chapter 8, verse 28. And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love him, who have been called according to his purpose. Notice it says, in all things, not in some things, even in betrayal, even in loss, even in delay. Heaven can weave good through what the enemy meant for ruin. You have been walking through what felt like chaos, but to God, it has always been choreography. You thought you were being buried, but in truth, you were being planted. You thought the silence was abandonment, but it was strategy. The divine pattern is always this: revelation comes after refinement. God hides meaning in pain, and when the time is right, He turns pain into prophecy. What hurt you yesterday will heal others tomorrow. Think back to the moments that nearly broke you. Those were the exact places where compassion began to form in you. You learned to comfort others because you first learned how to survive. You became a healer because you knew what it meant to bleed. Every scar you carry now glows with purpose. It is a map of the miracles that brought you here. You may not see it yet, but the same story that once brought tears will one day make you smile in awe. You will look back and whisper, "Now I understand." The closed doors kept you from wrong destinations. The rejections redirected you to divine timing. Even the betrayals purified your discernment. Heaven was not cruel, it was careful. God's plan was not delayed, it was deliberate. Chosen one. Revelation always follows endurance. There are answers hidden in your obedience, waiting for you to walk far enough to see them. Like a tapestry woven from the underside, all you've seen are the tangled threads. But from heaven's view, the pattern is breathtaking. God is now turning the fabric over. Soon, you will see the artistry behind the pain. The reason it had to happen this way is because destiny required depth. Shallow roots cannot hold heavy glory. If life had been easy, your faith would have been weak. The trials deepened your trust, carved wisdom into your soul, and trained your spirit to recognize God's voice in the storm. You are not being punished, you are being promoted through process. So breathe. Everything that tried to destroy you has already served its purpose. You are standing in the place where meaning meets manifestation. The weight you carried is about to become the testimony that lifts others. What once felt like delay will soon look like design. You have been asking, "When will I see the fruit?" The answer is now. The soil of sorrow is breaking open. Shoots of joy are rising through the cracks. The harvest is coming from the same ground that once held your tears. This is not random growth, it's divine cultivation. And as this revelation unfolds, you will understand why you had to walk through certain valleys to learn empathy, why certain people had to leave to teach you dependence, why the miracle didn't come earlier to mature your faith. None of it was wasted. Heaven recycles every heartbreak into holiness. This is the moment when your heart shifts from pain to praise. The season of wondering is ending. Understanding is dawning. And the words that will echo in your spirit are simple but sure. Now I see. Chosen one. If this truth resonates in the deepest part of your being, seal it as a prophetic act by commenting the number 555 below. That number symbolizes grace multiplied, favor released at the right time, in the right way, for the right purpose. When you type it, you are declaring, "I trust that everything that happened was for my good. I receive divine understanding. I walk in peace with the plan." You are about to see that none of it was random. Every tear was counted. Every moment was measured. And every part of your story, yes, even the painful ones, were pieces of a perfect plan. Chosen one. Faith is the invisible currency of heaven. It is not measured in words but in endurance. It is what keeps you walking when the path disappears. What makes you believe when logic collapses? Faith is the unseen bridge between promise and manifestation. The whisper in your spirit that says, "Even if I don't see it, I know it's already done." You have lived long enough to know that not everything makes sense in the moment. There are prayers that seemed unanswered, dreams that seemed delayed, and miracles that seemed denied. Yet here you are, still standing, still believing, still hoping. That is faith. It is not the absence of doubt. It is choosing trust even when doubt screams loudest. The letter to the Hebrews declares in chapter 11, verse 6, "Without faith it is impossible to please God, because anyone who comes to him must believe that he exists and that he rewards those who earnestly seek him." Faith is the language heaven understands. When you speak it, angels respond. When you live it, creation aligns. Every act of trust becomes a sound wave that reverberates through eternity, declaring that you believe in something greater than sight. But faith is not always glamorous. Sometimes it looks like walking through dry seasons, carrying seeds with no visible rain. Sometimes it looks like showing up to pray when your heart feels numb. Sometimes it's a whisper of "I still believe" through tears. That is not weak faith, that is warrior faith. The kind that shakes the spiritual realm because it refuses to die even in silence. There have been times when you've said, "Lord, I believe, but help my unbelief." Heaven never scolded you for that. God does not require perfect faith, only persistent faith. The smallest seed still moves mountains, not because of its size, but because of the one who responds to it. The mustard seed does not boast of its power. It trusts the soil to do what only the soil can. Faith is not about knowing the outcome. It's about knowing the author. It's walking even when the map is missing, trusting that each step will reveal the next. You are not meant to understand the whole journey. You are meant to trust the one who leads it. Faith is letting go of needing proof and resting in promise. When you operate in faith, you step out of the world's economy and into heaven's. The world says, "See it, then believe it." Heaven says, "Believe it, and then you'll see it." Faith transforms your perspective from waiting for evidence to walking as evidence. You stop reacting to the visible and start responding to the invisible. That's when miracles begin to follow you instead of you chasing them. Chosen one, your faith has carried you further than you realize. Every time you kept believing after heartbreak, you were making a withdrawal from heaven's storehouse. Every time you chose to forgive instead of fight, you deposited peace into your future. Every time you worshipped through pain, you invested in eternal reward. Heaven's economy never loses track of faith's transactions. There will always be moments when faith feels fragile. That's okay. Fragile faith is still faith if you refuse to let go. The enemy doesn't fear your perfection, he fears your perseverance. Even a trembling hand that reaches toward God terrifies hell. You don't need unshakable strength, you need unshakable focus. Keep your eyes on the one who calms storms, not the waves trying to distract you. Faith will often lead you into places that look impossible. That's intentional. If everything made sense, you would rely on logic, not on love. Faith teaches dependency, and dependency births intimacy. You are learning to trust not because you're weak, but because you're chosen for a life that requires supernatural vision. Remember the seasons when you didn't have enough, yet somehow there was always just enough. Remember the doors that closed only for better ones to open. Remember the times you fell, yet mercy lifted you again. Those were faith lessons disguised as survival. They taught you that God is not a theory, He is a reality that carries you when nothing else can. Faith is the heartbeat of your destiny. It sustains what talent cannot, strengthens what knowledge fails to explain, and secures what human power cannot hold. Every time you choose to believe, you pull eternity a little closer into time. That's why the enemy attacks your faith, because he knows once you believe fully, he loses access completely. So keep believing, even quietly, even when the evidence hasn't appeared, even when others mock your patience. Heaven is moved not by noise, but by trust. Every silent act of faith is thunder in the spirit. Every whispered "I still believe" echoes in eternity. Chosen one, you were never meant to walk by sight. You were born to walk by faith. That is how heaven recognizes you, not by your fear, but by your belief. The more you trust, the more clearly you'll see that the invisible has been holding you all along. And one day, when it all unfolds before your eyes, you'll smile and realize it was faith that carried you home. Chosen one, you are a carrier of light. You may not feel like it every day, but the evidence is everywhere you go. You bring warmth into cold rooms, calm into chaos, and truth into confusion. Darkness has always recognized your glow. That's why it tries so hard to surround you. You were never meant to blend in. You were meant to illuminate. Light doesn't compete with darkness. It simply arrives. And darkness loses by default. You have spent so much time questioning your worth, forgetting that even the smallest flame changes an entire atmosphere. The power is not in your size, it's in your source. You are not shining because you are flawless. You are shining because heaven placed fire inside you. That fire is not fragile, it's divine. Jesus himself declared in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 5, verse 14, "You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden." He did not say, "You will become light someday," but you are. That means your identity is already settled. You don't need to earn brightness. You simply need to stop dimming what's already burning within you. For too long, you have mistaken humility for hiding. You've silenced your voice to make others comfortable. You've buried your gifts to avoid judgment. You've tried to shrink your presence to fit into small spaces. But chosen ones cannot fit into molds created by fear. Your calling was never designed for invisibility. You were created to disrupt darkness. Every time you speak truth, you push back shadows. Every act of kindness becomes a spark. Every moment you love when it's easier to hate becomes a beam of divine fire. Light is both gentle and powerful. It does not shout, but it transforms everything it touches. You don't have to prove your glow, you simply have to show up. The room shifts when you enter because your spirit carries authority. That authority is not arrogance, it's awareness. Awareness that heaven lives in you, that eternity pulses through your veins, that love itself chose to dwell in your frame. Sometimes, you've mistaken opposition for rejection, when in truth, it's recognition. Darkness doesn't fight what it cannot see, it fights what it fears. Every attack has been confirmation of your radiance. The enemy tried to cover your flame because he knows the danger of a soul fully awake. But you cannot extinguish what God himself ignited. Chosen one, your light is not for decoration, it's for direction. You are not a candle hidden in a corner, you are a lighthouse guiding others home. There are people wandering in confusion who will find clarity through your courage. There are hearts frozen in bitterness that will thaw under the warmth of your forgiveness. There are lives trapped in despair that will awaken because your presence reminds them hope still breathes. Your responsibility is not to make people see the light, but to keep shining even when they refuse, even when it's lonely, even when it's misunderstood, because consistency converts more than persuasion. Light does not chase approval, it simply continues to shine until eyes adjust. And when they finally see, they will realize you were reflecting heaven all along. Do not be afraid of burning out. The flame you carry does not depend on your strength, it runs on divine oil. The Holy Spirit within you is your endless source. When you feel weary, the oil refills. When your spark feels faint, grace fans it again. That's why you cannot truly lose your glow, you can only forget it. But even in forgetting, heaven remembers, and soon you ignite again. Understand, this light does not ask permission to exist. It just exists. It does not explain itself. It reveals itself. You are not here to convince darkness to leave. You are here to expose it so that truth can enter. Every word of encouragement you speak, every prayer you whisper, every time you choose mercy over malice, you are fulfilling your purpose as a beacon. And the beautiful thing about light is that it multiplies. One spark births another. Every life you touch becomes a torch. Every soul you awaken becomes a lamp in its own circle. You are not just carrying light, you are creating a constellation of hope across the earth. Heaven is mapping those lights, connecting them, turning brokenness into brilliance. So lift your head, chosen one. Stop underestimating what you carry. You are not random, you are radiant. The same God who spoke, "Let there be light," is still speaking through you. Your very existence is a declaration that darkness cannot win. Keep walking, even when the night is thick. You are not trying to escape the dark, you are transforming it. Wherever you go, shadows flee, hope rises, and hearts remember that light is stronger than anything that tries to hide it. You are not a survivor of storms, you are the sunrise after them. And the world needs your glow. Chosen one, you have come through fire and flood. And what remains is not what broke, it's what was built. The season of testing has forged you into something heaven now calls ready. The long nights, the waiting, the tears, they were not empty experiences, they were rehearsals for revelation. You have walked through the wilderness, carrying promises that felt heavy. But now, you stand at the edge of fulfillment. The crown season approaches. Crowns are not given to the comfortable. They are placed upon those who endured. The gold of glory is not polished in luxury, it is formed in pressure. Every heartbreak, every silent battle, every unseen sacrifice has been shaping a crown no human hand could design. You did not lose years, you invested them. You did not wander without purpose, you were walking the path of preparation. The apostle wrote with fire in his spirit in the second letter to Timothy. Chapter 4, verse 8. There is laid up for me the crown of righteousness, which the righteous judge will give me. This is your reminder, your faithfulness has not gone unnoticed. Heaven keeps records not of your failures, but of your faith. You have been tested not to prove your weakness, but to display your worth. Crowns are not made of comfort, they are made of conquest. You conquered the urge to quit. You conquered the temptation to become bitter. You conquered the doubt that whispered, "You're not enough." Every time you stood back up, you added another jewel to your unseen crown. It is not made of metal, but of moments, each act of grace, each prayer in pain, each time you forgave when it hurt the most. You may not feel royal, but royalty rarely does. The true sign of kings and queens in the kingdom of God is not their posture on the throne, but their posture in surrender. Your humility has crowned you already in the unseen. Heaven sees what the world overlooks. The robe you wear is invisible to the eye, but visible in the spirit it glows with endurance, patience, mercy, and love. You are stepping into a new chapter, where what was hidden will be honored. The season that once felt like humiliation will now be remembered as the birth of your authority. You are not just walking out of a storm, you are walking into a coronation. Heaven does not crown survivors, it crowns overcomers. Think of gold refined in fire, it endures melting before it shines. You endured your melting. Now comes your shine. The heat that once hurt you has purified you. You no longer react like before because you've learned to reign instead of react. That's what royalty does. It rules its emotions instead of being ruled by them. You have matured in grace, and grace now multiplies around you. This message, this space, this gathering of chosen hearts, it exists because souls like yours refuse to give up. Every word spoken here is oil for your lamp, light for your path, strength for your crown, and, beloved, if these messages have become a part of your healing, your hope, your walk, then share that light. When you like, when you share, when you comment, you are not boosting numbers, you are building altars of truth in the digital wilderness. There are countless souls scrolling in silence, desperate for one reminder that God still speaks. You can be the hand that points them here. Each share is like releasing a dove, carrying peace into someone else's storm. Each comment becomes a stone in a foundation that keeps the message alive. And to those who have the heart to give, to donate, to help sustain this voice that heaven is using, understand this deeply. Generosity is not about charity, it's about continuation. When you sow into this work, you are not giving to a person, you are giving through one. You are watering the roots of a global vineyard that produces hope for thousands. Think of your giving as planting lamps along a dark road. Each contribution lights another stretch of path so that another weary traveler can find their way home. You may never meet them, but heaven will connect your name to every soul touched because of your seed. Giving is not losing, it's lighting, and light multiplies faster than darkness can react. Your engagement, your comment, your share, your generosity is not small. It's a ripple in eternity. This message is not just words, it's a movement. And movements are sustained by hands that believe. If this space has poured into you, let your presence pour back, because that's how the oil keeps flowing. The flame you feed today will illuminate someone else's tomorrow. As you reflect on your journey, look how far you've come. You once crawled through seasons that now lie behind you like conquered lands. You are proof that grace wins. The next chapter won't be written with tears of survival, but with songs of authority. You are about to wear your testimony as a crown. Lift your head. Royal one, heaven has seen your endurance and calls you worthy. The waiting room is becoming a throne room. The ashes are turning into anointing. Your story, your faith, your obedience, they all converge here. at this sacred intersection of glory and gratitude. So, before you leave this space, leave your imprint. Comment your reflection below your word, your gratitude, your amen. Every word becomes part of the altar we are building together. And if your heart leads you, like, share, subscribe, or give not as obligation, but as overflow, because the crowned never hoard light, they pass it on. You are walking into your coronation. The sound of heaven's applause is rising. Wear your crown with humility, but also with holy confidence. You made it through the fire, now shine like the gold you've become. Chosen one. You may not have realized it yet, but everything is unfolding with precision. What once seemed like chaos has been harmony in disguise. God's plan is not random, it is exact. Every unanswered prayer, every delay, every detour has been stitched together into a tapestry of purpose. You've spent seasons asking, why did it happen this way? And heaven gently replies, because it had to. The divine pattern is never hurried, never careless. It is woven in sacred timing, not human convenience. What you call waiting is actually synchronization, heaven aligning events, hearts, and opportunities so that everything meets in perfect order. If God moved too early, you would not be ready. If he moved too late, you would lose hope. But he is never early and never late, only right on time. According to what is revealed in the book of Proverbs, chapter 3, verse 5, trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your understanding. This is the essence of peace, to trust that the one who wrote your story knows every chapter better than you ever could. When you surrender your need to understand, you make room for revelation. When you let go of your timeline, you step into his. Think of an orchestra tuning before the symphony begins. To the untrained ear, it sounds like noise, random, messy, uncoordinated, but the conductor hears harmony forming beneath the sound. That's how divine alignment works. You see confusion, heaven hears composition. Soon, everything will move in rhythm, and you'll realize it was music all along. Your prayers have not been ignored, they've been archived for appointed time. Heaven has timing for every word you've spoken in faith. You may not see the movement, but things are shifting beneath the surface. The soil is stirring. The answers are maturing. Some blessings require a season of development before they can safely arrive. God is not just preparing the blessing for you, he's preparing you for the blessing. When you prayed for peace, he sent storms not to punish you, but to train your heart to stay still in chaos. When you prayed for strength, he allowed weakness to teach you reliance. When you prayed for love, he removed the counterfeit to make room for the genuine. Everything that confused you was actually construction. Heaven builds by subtraction before it multiplies. You must understand. Divine timing is not passive waiting, it's active, trusting. Every day you choose faith over frustration. Heaven moves a little closer to manifestation. Every sigh of surrender becomes a stepping stone toward fulfillment. God's plan unfolds, one obedience at a time, one sunrise after another, until suddenly the promise stands before you, fully formed and right on schedule, chosen one. Alignment often looks like loss at first. The pruning season feels cruel when you focus on what's being cut, but not when you see what's about to grow. The gardener does not hate the branch, He trims it to multiply its fruit. You are being pruned, not punished. What you lose now makes space for abundance later. The divine hand only removes what hinders your harvest. The silence you've been experiencing has purpose. 2. It teaches you to hear in stillness. God's voice is not always loud. Sometimes it is found in the pause, the unseen adjustments, the inner healing, the small shifts in your heart. These are the true miracles. Heaven's timing doesn't just change your surroundings, it transforms your soul to match your destiny. When you finally step into what's prepared, it will not feel rushed or forced. It will feel like peace. You'll realize that every twist, every closed door, every not yet led you straight here to alignment, to purpose, to divine order. You will thank God for the delays that saved you from destruction. You will see that the things you prayed for earlier would have crushed you if they came too soon. Heaven was protecting you from premature blessing. The plan was never broken, it was being built in silence. You were never forgotten. You were being refined. Even now, things are moving, threads being tied, paths being cleared, doors unlocking quietly behind the scenes. Divine precision is not always visible, but it is always at work. One day, you will look back and marvel at how perfectly everything connected. The wrong turns led to right places. The heartbreaks led to holy encounters. The delays brought you into destiny. The pain that once confused you will become proof that God's plan was always flawless. Chosen one. Now the veil begins to lift. You can finally see that none of it was wasted. Every step, every sorrow, every season you thought was random has led you right here to the revelation that the plan was always perfect. You were never improvising, you were unfolding. What felt like detours were actually divine coordinates, bringing you into the very center of purpose. When you look back, the pain no longer feels like punishment, it feels like preparation. You understand now why certain people had to leave, why certain prayers were answered with silence, why the door you begged to open stayed shut. If those things had gone your way, you would have missed what was meant for you. Heaven's protection often comes disguised as disappointment. But now you see the divine hand was never withholding, it was weaving. The letter to the Philippians, chapter 1, verse 6, declares this eternal promise. He who began a good work in you will carry it on to completion until the day of Christ Jesus. Those words are the rhythm of your journey, the reminder that what God starts, He always finishes. The work in you was never abandoned, it was perfected in stages. Every delay, every test, every detour was part of completion. You were never behind, you were being built. Completion does not mean everything is easy, it means everything is aligned. It means your heart no longer wrestles with what was, but rests in what is. You no longer chase meaning, you embody it. You no longer fear the unknown, you trust the unseen. The storm that once terrified you has become the wind beneath your wings. The silence that once broke you has become the symphony of peace within. Chosen one, you are the living proof of divine consistency. The fact that you are still standing after everything that tried to break you is evidence that Heaven's hand has never let go. The odds you survived weren't in your favor, they were in God's. The mercy that sustained you is now the same mercy that will flow through you. You are no longer the wounded, you are the witness. You carry the signature of a completed promise. Do you see how much has changed? You speak softer, but with more authority. You move slower, but with more purpose. You love deeper, but with clearer discernment. That's what transformation looks like. It's quiet, but undeniable. The fire didn't burn you. It branded you with wisdom. You no longer live from reaction, but from revelation. Every scar on your soul has become a line in heaven's poem. Every ache a note in heaven's song. The beauty of your story is not in its perfection, but in its perseverance. You didn't walk a straight line. You followed a divine spiral that brought you higher each time you thought you were circling the same pain. You weren't going in circles, you were climbing in disguise. The plan of God is not linear, it's layered. What looks like endings are entrances. What feels like pauses are pivots. God doesn't discard seasons, He recycles them into wisdom. Everything you lived through is now a resource. You carry spiritual blueprints that others will need. You will speak peace where others still panic. Because you've stood in storms and learned that peace is stronger than waves. Chosen one, you are entering the era of manifestation, the visible fruit of invisible faith. The seeds you planted in tears are now breaking through the soil with joy. You are the tree that refused to die in drought. Now, standing tall in sunlight. The roots you grew in the dark are now the strength that will sustain you in abundance. You have become what you once prayed for. But the beauty of your completion is not selfish, it's redemptive. You were chosen not to boast, but to bear witness. Your life is a mirror for others still wandering. You don't need to convince them. Your peace will preach. Your resilience will speak louder than any sermon. You are proof that surrender wins, that timing heals, that faith finishes what fear starts. The plan has always been perfect, and you have always been part of it, even when you doubted, even when you stumbled, even when you tried to run away. God's grace stayed faster. You are the evidence that mercy does not expire and that purpose never misses its mark. You are living confirmation that divine design cannot be undone by human delay. So rest now. Let your soul exhale. You have fought well, believed hard, and waited long. The plan has unfolded exactly as written. The story continues. Yes, but this chapter closes in peace. You have become what heaven saw from the beginning: steady, radiant, faithful. You are the proof of His promise, the manifestation of His mercy, the reflection of His glory. And now, the heavens whisper over you, well done. Chosen one, you trusted the plan. Chosen one, take a deep breath. You've reached the end of this journey. But the truth spoken here will keep echoing through your spirit long after these words fade. You've walked through revelation, through pain and purpose, through storms and stillness, and now you stand crowned in understanding. Heaven's message has taken root in you. You are not the same soul who began reading. You are steadier, wiser, and more aware of divine rhythm. Let this moment be a pause of gratitude. You have just received a full circle of divine alignment, 17 movements of heaven's story for your heart. You have seen that worry cannot rule you, that waiting is holy, that faith sustains you, and that light forever wins. These words were never coincidence. They were confirmation. You are part of something sacred, an awakening that stretches across the world. One chosen heart at a time. And now, if this message has reached you deeply, if it reminded you who you are, then don't keep it silent. Share it. Like this message, not for algorithm's sake, but as an act of agreement that heaven is still speaking. Subscribe to stay connected, to continue walking this road of revelation with thousands of other chosen ones across the earth. When you share, you're passing the torch. When you comment, you're joining the choir of those declaring, "I believe in the plan." Each word you write becomes a spark that lights another soul's path. You never know whose midnight might end because you chose to share your sunrise. So, comment below, leave your reflection, your gratitude, your amen. And as you do, remember this, the story doesn't end here. You are the continuation of it. Heaven is still writing, and your obedience keeps the ink flowing.